My name is Elena, and I am 28 years old. 3 years after my sister defended my attacker, he struck again at her own wedding. Now she's divorced, in therapy, and drowning in guilt. This is the story of how my refusal to keep the peace shattered our family, only to rebuild it on a foundation of truth. I've been with my partner, Leo, for 6 years. He's incredibly close to my family and a fixture at all our events. My sister, Sophie, has been with her fiancé, Luca, for 3 years, and they became engaged 8 months ago. Sophie is the type of girl who has always dreamed of getting married. It almost didn't matter who the groom was, as long as there was a wedding. The trouble began at the start of her relationship when she duped me into a double date with Luca and his brother, Adrian. The brother made unwanted advances all evening. Later, as I was leaving the restroom, he followed me and tried to touch me. I immediately told Sophie, but she sided with him, refusing to believe me. After that, I avoided Adrian as much as possible, but at every family event, I could feel his eyes on me. The real conflict started last month. Sophie wants me to be a bridesmaid at her wedding in June. She informed me that I would be walking down the aisle with Adrian. I told her again that he makes me uncomfortable, that he had touched me, and that I expected to walk with one of our brothers. Apparently, her fiancé, Luca, insisted on this pairing, and she wanted to make him happy. It felt like a deliberate plot between the two brothers. My siblings, my twin, Julian, and my younger brother, Nico, agreed it was strange and voiced their concerns to Sophie. She became agitated, declaring it was her wedding and she'd do as she pleased. She then gave me an ultimatum: walk with Adrian, or my partner of 6 years, Leo, would be uninvited. The absurdity was staggering. Nico's girlfriend of a few months was still invited, but Leo, who was practically family, was now banned. I thought I'd give her a few days to cool off, but she hasn't changed her mind. The situation came to a head at a family dinner at my mother's house. I brought up the aisle situation, carefully avoiding the details of the assault. Sophie immediately began to cry, accusing me of trying to destroy her marriage. When I tried to explain that Adrian made both me and Leo uncomfortable, she doubled down on her ultimatum. After that dinner, my twin brother, Julian, pulled me aside. "This is ridiculous, Elena," he said, his hands shaking slightly. "Something isn't right here." Nico, my youngest brother, was furious. "My girlfriend Emily is invited, but Leo can't come," he fumed. My mother, who had been clanging dishes in the kitchen to avoid the conflict, finally emerged. "Maybe you should just do what your sister asks, Elena," she said, refusing to meet my gaze. "I just don't want to see the family torn apart." "The family is already being torn apart," Nico retorted, "by Sophie and her insane demands." Later that night, Leo's voice was calm, but I could hear the pain beneath it. "You've spent your whole life trying to keep peace in your family, Elena," he said. "Maybe it's time to choose yourself." Over the next few days, Sophie began a campaign, calling relatives and painting me as the selfish, jealous sister trying to ruin her happiness. My phone was inundated with texts from aunts and cousins. "Can't you put aside your feelings for a few hours?" one read. "You're causing so much drama," said another. Each message was a fresh stab. My brothers, however, were my rocks. "I've been doing some digging," Nico told me. Emily's cousin went to college with Adrian. She says he had a reputation for being handsy at parties. My stomach twisted. He continued, "Emily also heard from her cousin that Adrian's been telling people you two have a history, making it sound like you had a thing." I felt nauseous. Adrian wasn't just a creep. He was actively building a false narrative to discredit me. My brothers tried to confront Sophie with this information. She refused to listen. She said Adrian already told her about the history thing. Julian reported, looking defeated. "She claims you led him on during that double date, and now you're embarrassed." I broke down, sobbing with angry, frustrated tears. 6 years of swallowing my words to keep everyone happy, and this is where it got me. My mother called. "Elena, you need to apologize to your sister." "Apologize for what?" I asked, putting her on speaker for my brothers to hear. "For not wanting to walk with someone who assaulted me?" "Don't be dramatic," she said. "That was 3 years ago. Can't you just move past it for your sister's sake?" I hung up. I had never hung up on my mother before. The lines were drawn. The final week before the wedding was a blur of family politics. My bridesmaid dress hung in my closet like a ghost. 3 weeks before the wedding, I made one last attempt at peace. I asked Sophie to meet for coffee. She arrived looking exhausted. "Sophie," I began softly, "I need you to understand what Adrian did." "Stop," she raised her hand. "I don't want to hear another word about ancient history. 3 years isn't ancient history. He assaulted me, Sophie. He tells people we have a history. He stares at me at every family gathering." "Luca is not banned," she said icily. "You're choosing to exclude him by being difficult about the processional." She stood up abruptly. "You have a choice. Be my bridesmaid and walk in the processional I have planned, or stay home. But quit trying to manipulate me with your victim complex." She left me sitting there, her words echoing in my ears. Victim complex. That night, I made my decision. "I'm done," I told Leo over the phone. "I'm not going to the wedding." "Are you sure?" he asked gently. "The only thing I'd regret is walking down that aisle with Adrian while you're sitting at home." The morning of the wedding was dreary and drizzling. My phone started buzzing at 7 a.m. with last-ditch texts from relatives. I turned it off. Julian and Nico arrived around 10, dressed in their groomsmen tuxes. "We wanted to see you before we went," Julian said. "Make sure you're okay." "I'm okay," I said, and I mostly meant it. "Feel like traitors," Nico mumbled. I hugged them both. "You're not. Your brother's trying to support both your sisters in an impossible situation. Go. Try to have fun." Around noon, as I knew the ceremony was about to begin, I finally broke down. Leo held me as I grieved, not just for the wedding I was missing, but for the sister I had lost. As it turned out, someday arrived sooner than anyone anticipated. At 3:30 p.m., my phone rang. It was Julian, his voice strained over background commotion. "Elena, something happened." Adrian cornered one of the servers during cocktail hour. Luca's cousin, Victor, saw the whole thing. The girl was trying to get past him, and he put his hands on her waist. My heart pounded. The catering manager is threatening to pull his entire staff. 25 minutes later, Nico called. "You're not going to believe this. Our cousin, Isabel, just caused a scene." She heard about the server, stood up during the father of the groom's toast, and announced what Adrian did in front of everyone. "Oh my God," I breathed. Half the room is in chaos. Sophie slapped Isabel, right in front of 180 guests. Then she grabbed the microphone and said anyone who believed Isabel's lies could leave. The next hour was a haze of chaotic updates. Julian called again. "It's getting worse. 3 of Luca's fraternity brothers just confronted Adrian. Turns out they knew about his history at college. Adrian just shoved one of them into the gift table." I heard a crash in the background. At 4:45 p.m., my father called. His voice was hollow. "The wedding's over. The venue kicked everyone out." He paused, then sighed. "Elena, I owe you an apology. When I heard about that young server crying, I kept thinking about you in that bathroom 3 years ago." "It's too late for apologies, Dad." "I know," he said quietly. "I just needed to say it." That evening, Julian and Nico arrived at my apartment, their tuxes ragged. "It was worse than we could tell you over the phone," Julian said. "After the venue kicked everyone out, Adrian tried to follow that server to her car. Her manager had to physically restrain him." My phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Is this Elena?" a young woman's voice asked, trembling. "I'm Emily. I was the server at your sister's wedding. She wanted to thank me." Isabel had told her my story. "It helped to know I wasn't alone," she cried. Her manager wanted her to file a police report, but she was scared. Adrian's brother had already called the catering company, threatening to sue for defamation. "Would you," she paused, "would you come with me to file the report?" "Of course," I said instantly. "We'll be there." The next morning, Leo and I met Emily at the police station. She was younger than I expected, maybe 20. Her manager was there, resolute. "I'm not letting another creep get away with hurting one of my staff," he said. I spent the next hour giving my own statement about the assault 3 years ago. It was surreal to finally have someone in authority take it seriously. Over the next few days, more stories surfaced. The photographer filed her own complaint. 2 other guests came forward. With Isabel's help, 3 women from Adrian's college were now willing to speak. The truth had momentum. Sophie called a week after her ruined wedding. "Are you happy now?" she sobbed. "My reputation is destroyed." "Sophie, you saw what happened at your own wedding. That server was flirting with him, she insisted. I hung up. For months later, Julian called. Sophie left Luca. She had found messages on Luca's phone. He had been covering for Adrian for years, paying off women threatening witnesses. She also found photos Adrian had taken of women without their consent, including one of me from the engagement party that I never knew existed. Luca had been keeping it as insurance. 3 days after that, a letter arrived in Sophie's handwriting. Elena, it began, I'm sorry. I knew when you told me about the restroom. I knew when I told you to walk with him. I picked my fairy tale above my sister. I am not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I know now. I had always known. I was just too cowardly to admit it. I'm getting divorced. I am in therapy. I'm trying to figure out how I became someone who would sacrifice my sister for a wedding. You were right about everything. I read the letter 3 times, then showed it to Leo. He held me as I cried tears of sheer relief. Adrian eventually pleaded guilty to lesser charges to avoid a trial. It wasn't enough, but it was something. A year after the wedding that wasn't, I finally replied to Sophie's letter. Just one line. I am glad you are getting help. Life moved on. Leo and I got engaged. We planned a small wedding in my parents' backyard. No large bridal parties, no forced pairings, no drama. When it came time to send the invites, I hovered over Sophie's name. You don't have to, Leo said gently. I know, I said, setting the pen down. I'm not ready. She wasn't there, but she sent a card. I wish you all the happiness I almost stole from you. May your marriage be founded on facts, not fairy tales. I kept the card but did not reply. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. Perhaps the lesson isn't always about forgiveness. Perhaps it's about learning to choose yourself, even and especially when it means sacrificing the peace you fought so hard to keep.